Hi everybody. It's been nearly a fortnight now since we last talked. The dial hasn't even opened up yet. I think it's the 19th whenever they're back, but there has been a lot of stuff going on in the background here, and I'll take you as a spin through what we're doing. Still having a lot of conversations here with John O'Connor. John O'Connor, ex-CEO of the Housing Agency, has now been formally appointed the chair of the Housing Commission by the Minister. It's a big role, and he will certainly have a role in our scheme, which is really good news. He's a guy I've been working with all along, and even in our working group days was probably the most engaging guy out of all of the officials that we certainly came across. He was also responsible for the rollout of the pyrite scheme in Leinster, and we would take that deal any day in the week. So that's all good news for us. We're still working a lot of the stuff in the background here. We want to make sure that they deliver on what the minister's letter outlined on the 23rd of December. The SCSI transparency and independence was critical in there. The fact that we will see what it is SCSI propose each year because it's index linked across all five remediation options, and that if the minister decides to do something different to that, in the highly unlikely event that he does that, we will see that right away and we can step in with the appropriate questions. And so that's really good news there. And then the second of the 4 points was to do with the clawback of the money, the refund of the money from the testing fees that were now due. And that process will be underway by end of January, so we're pushing on that. The 5K for emergency works, pushing on that. That process is meant to be up and running then as well. And then finally, to do with the housing agency engineers interacting with the homeowner engineers to ensure that it was the appropriate optimum remedial option and not just the cheapest option to the estate. There has to be the right quality option there at the end of the day and needs to be backed up by science. So that's where the homeowner engineer will have a bigger role now than what was first outlined, and that was all good news for us. Just on that, there's now a program manager appointed or in the process of being appointed. I have a name, but I'll not divulge nothing yet because it's still a bit of work in progress there. But he would have been working very closely with John O'Connor at a time, and would be homeowner centred and would be seen as a not all about the exchequer, which that's extremely important for us. And that's the way John O'Connor ran his shop as well in Leinster. So that's a parallel that's in the direction of goodness for us, certainly. Um, so the other thing we talked about then is the stakeholder group then setting that up, and we requested that because we want to make sure that this is not another 90-10 that turned into a 60-40 behind closed doors. We want to be involved in this rollout. We want to see what that looks like, and we want to make sure the homeowner is protected on it. And that's what we're going to get. It looks like through this stakeholder group. It'll be chaired by John O'Connor again, which is great news. Housing Department will be involved and will have representation. Donegal County Council, Mayo will have representation. There'll be representation, probably one rep from Donegal and one from Mayo in there on the homeowners' behalf. There'll be the CEO of the housing agency, Bob Jordan, who again worked very closely with John O'Connor, the previous CEO. We also importantly have requested and insisted that a homeowner engineer will be in there, a homeowner engineer of our choice, and I think that's going to be very important for us as well. And the program manager himself, I think that's the main stakeholders that'll be represented in that group. And again, we just want to make sure, for example, we get the right deal for the homeowner as this is rolled out. For example, the 15K that's there for rent, it needs to be rent that you can apply to in the north as well as the south. It needs to be also available for mobile homes or cabins. And interestingly, a few homeowners have contacted us to ask, what about converting their own garage and making that livable in the meantime? It takes pressure off the other rental market that doesn't exist out there at the minute anyway, and people that have that option should be able to avail of that option and take the pressure off the market. And your kids are still going to the same school, you're still in the same site and all that good stuff. So them the things that we want to make sure are being properly explored and hoped to make all them wins for us as homeowners then. And that's the idea of being involved in that meeting. So I think the minister is favourable towards that. We haven't got it rubber stamped, but that's what we're now waiting on, and that will hopefully underway sooner rather than later. Just on the accommodation thing then, so that's a massive problem. I think there was one house available in all of Inishowen there, That's based on Macaulay's, Neil Doherty's website, daft.ie, and so on. When some of the guys check that out, so it's not there at the minute. Again, we will press hard on the the holiday homeowner, again, that we put forward, because quite a lot of holiday homeowners did make contact to say they would help relieve the housing crisis that's going to come with these displaced families in return for eligibility on the scheme. We put that forward, it was rejected, but we'll be raising that again, because it's still, they can't reject everything and not give us an answer to where these people are going to go whenever they're displaced from their homes. So, we will be pushing hard on that, and that's at least a pathway for holiday homeowners that want to engage on that pathway, and it also helps with the relief of the housing crisis there. So that, coupled with lots of other things like, for example, Donegal County Council have submitted to the Housing Department request for 60 to 100 homes around Barrackhill there on council-owned ground that would be used for this type of accommodation as well. Homes that would be built for like a 15-year period type thing, and then obviously people would come and go to them as they're being displaced for MICA, and maybe some other shortfalls in housing as well, but certainly for the MICA victims, and not only council MICA victims but also private MICA victims as well. So that's something else has been looked at. Paddy Diver then, being Paddy, he's looked at the parochial grounds there beside the Garrett School in Cairn, and again, he's been talking to me about it. We've opened that up a bit further now, talking to Father Paddy Dunn, who helped us last time round with getting the bishops out to the MICA sites and homes and all that type of stuff, to see could we look at that between the Derry Diocese and Bishop Allen's diocese up around Letterkenny, to see is there parcels of land around there where we could take that ground for 10 or 15 years, and if there was a developer prepared to come in and put cabins on there or whatever, you would have then options for people to come and avail of that while their house was being rebuilt, and then they move out and the next person moves into this temporary accommodation type thing. So we're trying to think outside the box on a lot of stuff that really we shouldn't have to do. If other people had this paid to look after this stuff, was doing this and doing this right, homeowners like ourselves wouldn't be doing it. But in the absence of it, we'll have to do it, and that's where it's at. But very shortly, they have to take proper responsibility for this scheme and get it rolled out. That's why that stakeholder group is so important, and I want to be sitting across the table from the likes of the Housing Department and the Council and the Housing Agency and the others that have the power to say yes or no to these things that we're now asking for, and that's why this is critically important, that stakeholder meeting. So that's all the stuff that's going on. There's a standoff at the minute between the council and the housing agency, or the housing department, as you know, regarding the standards. So that's all about getting these foundations included and getting other deleterious materials included, which we've asked for all along. But council, I welcome that stand that they're taking. They'll force that. That's a meeting on the 20th of January, so we'll see how all that goes. One last thing then quickly is in around skill build. So if you look at them on Facebook, there's about 80,000 followers. I've been talking to them over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and we have come up with a scheme now where February will be a MICA stroke pyrite month, and what it'll aim to do is provide us information on how we go about setting up as a self-build builder for the purpose of your own house type thing. There'll be, each week, there'll be somebody, say for example, the first week it may be timber frame houses coming on to talk about all the pros and cons of it, how that works and everything else, and what to watch out for, how you go about it, all the questions associated with it. Another week maybe ICF, that insulated concrete formation work, different alternative methods that, and it'll be interactive from what I'm led to believe, sort of questions and answers at the end. You also get a magazine every quarter if you subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's really, really good and really positive. And there's experts there that we can post questions to, and they come back to us. That's how they work. And so we'll look forward to that. And you'll get information on that very shortly. So in a nutshell, we want to get people their money back. The testing fees, we want to get the 5K underway as quick as possible. We want to get that standard updated with the foundations and the other deleterious materials. We want to make sure that stakeholder group is up and running and you're represented properly within that, and again that we're not shortchanged in it. And we want clarity in a lot of the questions that there's not clarity on at the minute, and that's what we'll be aiming to do. Okay, cheers, bye.